You're so freaking good at identifying the small little things that people don't even realize they're giving off. And there's a video where you were on a Zoom call with a friend watching him talk to his girlfriend, I believe. And after the call, after like 4 seconds, you went, she's lying.
Yeah. So if you're looking for deception, you need to focus more on open-ended questions than closed-ended questions. Because you're not going to get a lot of body language out of somebody going, nope. That's tough. So what I told them to ask her was, tell me about last night. So that, and again, that's not even a question. And it makes it less of an interrogation because you're like, oh, tell me about last night. What all happened?
Versus, what did you do last night?
Right, and that's like an interrogation type of question. Tell me where you were last night. What did you do? Who did you hang out with? So I'm kind of just making a statement instead of a question. So the brain doesn't react like it's trying to defend itself. So the moment that that happened, we're starting to see nonverbal responses. And so I was just kind of like off camera looking at his phone. And I knew her baseline because I've spoken to her maybe for 2 minutes before in the past. So number one, the first thing is we tend to look a certain direction to access information, but everyone's different. And anybody listening right now, you could test this on all of your friends, and I'll test it on you right now so we can see it on the podcast.
All right, let's do it.
What is the 7th word of your favorite song? All right, so down left is called internal dialogue, and that's 99% of people.
Oh.
So if I'm running through words in my own head, I'm going down and left. So now we kind of have a baseline of a person. So the number one thing that we need to look for when it comes to human behavior is, can I detect a change? It doesn't matter if a person, it says, oh, you see all these books, like somebody doesn't look you in the eye, they're scratching their face, they cross their arms. If they do that all day long, those behaviors are meaningless because that's their baseline. That's their normal behavior. So what we're looking for is a change. So the first change was this eye movement deviation. So she looked down left for a prolonged period, which is like, let me think about what to say. Mm-hmm. Right when she started talking about everything, her blink rate, which is how often we blink, shot through the roof. So let's break this down really quick. When we talk about blink rate, this is how often a person is blinking. And we typically say blinks per minute. And the more often we're blinking, the more stressed out a person is. And the less often we're blinking, the more focused a person is. So if I'm sitting here and I'm about to give you horrible information, like you're sitting there and your doctor comes in the room and is like, all right, why don't you have a seat here? You're going to almost stop blinking. So that's focus. So during high focus, it's like 3 or 4 blinks a minute during extreme focus. And during stress, like when I'm taking like the math portion of my SATs, my blink rate is like 75 per minute. And the cool thing about blink rate is I can instantly see it in someone because we look into each other's eyes all the time when we talk to other people. And it's an unconscious behavior. So one thing that we saw right away in the video is blink rate. Her blink rate was about a 15 or 20, which is the average in conversation. And it shot up to about an 80.
Wow.
When she was explaining what she did last night. And that's a solid indicator of stress, not deception. There is no behavior of deception. It doesn't exist. So we're looking for changes to normal behavior and stress. And then am I seeing a cluster? Not just one thing. So if people say, oh, he did this one thing, he's lying, you need to look for multiple things. Like he lost fluency, he hesitated more than often, his eyes went in a different direction, his blink rate went up, he reached across and covered his abdomen, his turtles went up, or his shoulders went up and did this like turtling behavior. And we're looking, that's a cluster, right? So when I see a cluster of behavior, I know that I'm not saying that someone's lying, I'm saying the likelihood is drastically increasing because I'm seeing this cluster. So the cool thing is, like, if you're studying blink rate, you don't need to sit there and count per minute blinks of a person. You never want the time that you use a technique to be at the moment when it's most needed. So practice it at Starbucks. Practice it at the grocery store. Practice it in your Zoom meetings. So what you do is you start a conversation. Does the blink rate look pretty average, fast, or pretty slow? That's it. So what is the baseline here? And your goal is to look for change. So am I seeing blink rate slow down, stay the same, or speed up? So it's such a great indicator because it's built into our mammalian part of our brain and our brainstem. We're not aware of it, and we're looking at people's eyes already. So it's such a beautiful indicator of stress and focus. Here's where it gets into narcissism. And let me know if I'm droning on too long.
No, I'm loving this.
Okay.
I feel like my eyes haven't blinked.
Oh, good.
I'm that focused.
I think your blink rate was an 8.
Oh, really?
Before I said that, yeah. So if I'm doing a good job, I'm going to have this low blink rate. And the way that it gets into narcissism is, especially into psychopathy, you start talking about some of your vulnerabilities and their blink rate drops to 0. So like the moment, let's say you and I, we don't know each other, we're both single, we're on a date somewhere, and you start talking about how you're really insecure or paranoid about this thing. You start exposing this little flaw in yourself that normal people would go, oh yeah, I do that too sometimes. But the moment you see someone just laser focus on you, the moment you get into those vulnerabilities and insecurities, that's a big deal.
Why wouldn't that mean that you're so focused because you're so into it?
Right. You can be. So I might be really focused and into it and then kind of show empathy on my face. You'll see this little muscle right here. That's called the grief muscle. So it makes this little horseshoe shape, and it's almost impossible to fake. So when you're talking about something that's vulnerable or sad or maybe some of your insecurities or something like that, you're going to see like some social mirroring on that. You'll see someone's forehead go up, and they'll kind of mirror that with you. That they don't have to verbally say anything. But if I'm talking about insecurities, I see a drop in blink rate, and I don't see any facial resonance. Or if I'm talking about something really exciting, you see my eyebrows go up, yours went up instantly because you have empathy. And an interesting thing is that about 85% of people, even if they're total strangers, and you do this and you say good morning, oh hey, good morning, they mirror it without even knowing that their forehead did that because they have true empathy. So this is so difficult to fake. And then you're seeing a lack of that when you're talking about something that's vulnerable or sad or anything like that, and you're not seeing that kind of like that empathetic look on somebody's face, like, God, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. Those are very big indicators, and they're like, I would say close to 100% of the time, you're going to see a lack of affect. So that person is not empathetically affected by you saying something revealing or vulnerable about yourself, or like getting more open. And the other piece would be they become more focused. Like Lisa starts talking about her insecurities, vulnerabilities. That's my opportunity to learn how to control you.
Makes complete sense.
So that's very valuable information to me. So you're going to see blinks start to decrease. You're going to see a lack of recognition on the face. So I taught this group of women these like 10 things on how to spot narcissists on the first date. And one of the biggest ones, and we covered the top 5. And one of the top 5 was, if this person is talking about something vulnerable about themselves, psychopaths do not enjoy doing this. And they feel like it makes them feel or look weak or inept or vulnerable in some way. You're going to see their body start closing up while they're talking about being open, or they're pretending to be open verbally. They're physically closing off. You'll see their hands pull in. You'll see their arms draw back toward their body a little bit. You'll see them lean back a little bit, cover the abdomen. And mostly in men, you'll see this genital protection. So you'll see hand going from here, because you'll see in all these YouTube videos and all these body language articles, they show you these still images of someone crossing their arms. Every single time, that I would say for everyone watching this, every time you see a still image, don't ever let that sit in your head. Make it a movie, make it a little GIF, an animated thing, because you want to watch for change, right? So let's say the moment you ask me what I learned about myself in a stressful situation, and I'm like, yeah, I actually learned a whole lot about myself. So like my arms are coming in to protect, and I'm going into this like genital protective behavior. And verbally, I'm becoming very open. I might even have some forehead display and all of that, but everything else is kind of closing off. So it's also what we're seeing in this like a manipulative style of behavior. Like you're seeing a fake openness and you're seeing a closed body, or a closing verb body. So the movement of becoming more closed.
And it's the contradiction of the two. It's the combination of things together that make up an identification versus one thing in and of itself.
Yes. So you want to look for those clusters as much as you can.
Right, got it. Okay, in talking about that woman that you were witnessing that after like 4 or 5 seconds, you're like, yeah, she's lying. There were other things that you said that you had identified that were also signals that were more verbal. So I believe it was something like she dropped the pronouns.
Yeah. So when a person is being deceptive, they'll typically use less pronouns. So if I said, Lisa, what did you do last night? You'd probably walk me through, well, I had dinner, I watched a movie, if I checked some emails, washed my face, I got into bed, and I set my alarm clock and I went to sleep. If I ask somebody who's being deceptive, like let's say I asked some guy in an interview room, what did you do Wednesday night? And he says, well, left the office, checked some emails, left the office around 5, went to the liquor store, went home, played video games, went to bed. No pronouns. There's no I, there's no me, none of that. Dr. Pennebaker wrote a book called The Secret Life of Pronouns and how they become absent when somebody's being more deceptive. But the CIA has been teaching this for a while. So you heard the pronouns drop. And that whole conversation, she was fluent, exactly like both of us are speaking right now, that she wasn't struggling for words. Everything just kind of came out naturally. And then he said, tell me about last night. What all happened last night? And she was like, well, then the pronouns went away. And she had what's called a hesitancy and a loss of verbal fluency, where she struggled for words. And because we don't really typically have to do that when it's truthful. Then we have chronology. So when you say like, oh, what happened last night? If the biggest thing that we did was we went to a giant rave, and it was like the hugest thing that we did last night. And somebody says, oh, what happened last night? You're going to say, we went to this rave. You're not going to say, well, I started getting ready at 5:15, then I did this, then I did this, then we drove to this rave. But before we did the rave, I got some gum.
You're so right.
You're not going to go into chronology. You're going to go into the biggest thing that happened, right? And I'll throw a caveat here. If you say, tell me what happened last night from beginning to end, then you can't knock them for that. Yeah. So, but if you say like, what happened last night, and someone just goes into this like chronological recollection, it very, very likely, especially if you're hearing it with those other indicators, is very likely to be deceptive. So just as an example, you have said the alphabet 50,000 times, maybe 100,000 times in your life. We struggle to tell it backwards because we rehearsed it forwards. So if you hear one of these chronological stories going forward like that, and they're not mentioning the big event first, like if you got in a car accident, God forbid, like yesterday, and I was like, Lisa, what's going on? What happened yesterday? And you're like, oh, I got in a car accident. You're not going to say, I woke up at 6:30, I brushed my teeth, and then kind of lead up into it. So if I hear chronology, I might say something like, so you said you went to bed at 9, and that's when you kind of drove home. Take me from there and walk me backwards. What happened before that? So no matter how many times you rehearse a story in the correct order, when someone asks you to kind of walk backwards, you really, really struggle. But if I asked you from right now when we sat down on these couches, what happened, and walking backwards to this morning when you woke up, you could do that.
Because it actually happened.
Because it's real. But if we have this chronological thing that's a rehearsed story that's not true, we really struggle to go backwards for.
That's so good. The way you explained about the ABC as well, I totally get it. Yeah. So you're recalling on your memory, and that's why you can actually say it backwards, because it's a memory versus a memorization.
Yes. Very good. I'm going to actually steal that.
Oh, go for it. Okay.
Looks good on a Post-it note.
Yeah,
That's
it does.
Great.
My pleasure. Fascinating. Okay, I would be remiss not to ask. My audience will probably kill me if I don't. So you said you obviously teach women narcissists, and you say you usually go over the first 5. What are the first 5?
I think we've covered 4.
Okay.
So far. The final one is a bait question. So this is something that is taken from interrogation. And I'll give you the interrogation stuff first.
Okay.
So it'll be more fun. So in the interrogation, we use this thing called the punishment question. And the punishment question is, what do you think should happen to the person who did this? And the best example is when I did this with my children. I was on active duty in the military, and I come home from work one day. I'm in my camouflage outfit, and I walk in. Our living room carpet is as white as the carpet in here, and there's a little carton of chocolate milk just sitting on its side, and this big pool of chocolate milk on the carpet. And I said, guys, who knocked this milk over right here? And I looked at my son. I was like, William? And he, nope. Charlotte? Nope. I was like, all right, William, kitchen, Charlotte, dining room.
This is amazing. You're interrogating your kids. This is so good.
Yeah. So I said, Charlotte, did you spill that milk in the living room? No. What should happen to the person that spilled that milk? She goes, spankings, grounded, no Xbox, can't go outside, no more electronics, can't play anymore. Just kind of goes on this huge list.
Oh, she knows it's her brother just by that, right?
Yeah. But I mean, even if these people don't know each other, you'll have a severe reaction and a soft one. So I went up to my son. I said, William, did you spill the milk in there? No. What should happen? What do you think I should do to the person who spilled that milk in the living room? And he goes, no more chocolate milk in the living room? With a question mark at the end.
Oh.
So it's just such a great question, and it's so powerful. And I'll give you one more interrogation technique that can apply in a lot of these dating scenarios too. When the scenario that I gave to this women's group was to automatically bring up the 800-pound gorilla, to bring it up and say, you know what, there's so many women out there that get involved with manipulative psychopaths on the first date or in their dating life, and they don't even know that they're dealing with a psychopath. And you bring it up directly, and you watch exactly how that person starts to respond. Do they start breathing into their chest more? Does their blink rate start going up? And then the second part of this question that we talked to this group was, so in your opinion, I know these guys are out there, what do you think should happen to these people that are these manipulative guys that go on dates with these girls? That's where the question comes in. Mm-hmm. And you're going to reveal so much so fast just by asking a question like that. So in the interrogation room, it's what should happen to the person that did this? If they are that person, you're pulling all of that power out and you're letting them know that you may not be the right target or the right mark. But you're also watching, do they get nervous? Do they sit back? Do they get more defensive? Do they start blinking more often? Am I seeing all this stress come up in their body the moment that I put that elephant right out there on the table?
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. It's these little things that I wouldn't even think about that end up, they do reveal who they are. And that's why, thank you for sharing a lot of this. I think that these are moments where if we can really take these tools and implement them, it could potentially save either people's lives or just heartbreak. I mean, it can save so many women. So thank you.
And to throw one more thing onto that is, I want you to take one of your friends who was involved with a narcissist and start talking about how he manipulated her right in front of this person. And watch how they react. Watch his behavior. And in most real people are gonna be like, that's disgusting. That's horrifying. And then some people will be real quiet about it. You'll see their lips tighten up. And if you see lips squeezed together, every time that's withheld opinions. Every time. Think if you asked me oh, Chase, how do you like your new job? And I'm like, oh, it's great. There's opinions being withheld, right? So be on the lookout for that, especially when you bring up those elephants in the room. And I would say when the interaction is beginning, be okay with openly talking about narcissism. Your friend got involved in it. It's not you. Don't talk about yourself. Your friend got involved with it. It was so horrible. It's so hard to detect these people. And if they go, yeah, it's disgusting, I hate that behavior, which a narcissist can do, then you go, what do you think should happen to that kind of person? So it leads into that question.
That was amazing.
The more sensitive information you need, the less questions we need to be asking. So the first type of elicitation is a provocative statement. And this is any statement that elicits a response. So when we use statements, the brain feels like it's voluntarily giving the information not in response to a question, so that the information is something that naturally comes up and it doesn't feel like they're engaged in anything where something is being revealed. That's taboo, right? And this is used to get secrets from other country intelligence officers and stuff like that. It's very effective. And this will typically start with the words so or I bet. So if somebody says they are an accountant, you say, I bet that has got to be stressful. I didn't ask a question. He's going to talk about the stress, the stuff they deal with. And then right after he's done, like, yeah, but blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of that, I'll say, wow, that is remarkable how you just put up with that day in and day out. There's got to be something rewarding about it, though. I didn't ask a question. So now they're going to double down on the negativity. Their boss is an asshole. They're going to keep going into that. And then let's say we're continuing to use elicitation, and I want more data to just keep flowing out. Now I'll switch over to disbelief. And they say, it's this bad and this bad. My manager's a dickhead. Oh, I got to do all this stuff. And I'm like, there is no possible way that your job is that bad. It's got to be like, because I've talked to people who work for the same company before, and they seem like they really enjoy what they do. That's it. That's all I have to say. And that's disbelief. It's not I'm calling somebody a liar, but I'm saying there's no way it's that stressful. I've talked to some people that work at that company. It's like, oh my God, you have no idea. And you're going to hear more information come out. And so in a persuasion scenario, I'm using this technique to make your brain think that you're talking to a friend, because if I get them to complain or I get them to start giving up information, your brain now says, oh, he is a friend, like he is connected to him. So we've gone from a provocative statement to a little bit of disbelief, and then we have something called triggering the need to correct the record, which comes after that. This is a technique that was initially invented, I think, in the 80s by a guy named John Nolan. So like if you and I were standing at Erewhon, which is like Whole Foods for anybody watching that's not a Californian, and I'd say, Lisa, I want you to go figure out, there's somebody stocking baby carrots over there. You go figure out how much they make in under 60 seconds, and you're not allowed to use any questions. That's tough, because the money is a sensitive topic, right? We can't say, hey, how much do you make for a living? But what if you went up to that person who's stocking these baby carrots and you asked for help, and on the way you said, I can't remember where it was, but I saw this article that said everybody who works at Erewhon just got bumped up to $28 an hour. That is fantastic. I'm really glad that you guys are doing that. And they look at you like, what? Everybody here makes 19 unless you're a manager, unless you're whatever. So you've got the information that you need. So that's called triggering a need to correct the record. And there's many other techniques you can do, but some of those, you can get people to start revealing their true self. You can get sensitive information. So the rule of thumb is the more sensitive the information that you need, the less questions you need to be asking.
If you want to learn more about body language and deception so that you never get fooled, then you're going to want to watch this interview right here with Chase Hughes.
Everything looked great on the surface, but something felt off. Something didn't feel right. And they don't even know that they're dealing with a psychopath.